Gentlemen, my name is Mike Judy. I wanted to go through make a video today for some of you guys that are either just entering a season or getting ready to enter the season. This is not about X's and O's. This is more of a program based video. And I just wanted to go over some of the things, some of the challenges that we faced. We played in Delaware. We're Delaware. We had to play from October to early December, kind of right in the heart of this thing, which meant that we had to get through Halloween, okay, which was a big COVID spike, as well as Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving ended up being like regular season time for us, which normally it's playoff time for us. So everybody in the state had to deal with these things. And I just wanted to go through a couple of the challenges and just kind of let you know what we dealt with. And then if you have any questions about how we dealt with it, and if I don't cover it in this video, just reach out. As always, hit subscribe, like, all that. So the first thing was the one major thing. So several of these things are part of our 5 pillars. And we believe that we have these 5 different things in our program that we do like everybody else does. Okay. We do these things, but we feel like we can do them better, right? We pay more, it may be more details, more attention to it. It makes our program better than average. And our off-season training, not just the weight room. I am not just a lift until the season guy at all. I mean, we do a lot of speed training and stuff, and a ton of work. But we weren't able to get in the weight room from March 13th when we got put out of school until after the season in January, and it showed drastically. So the weight room was a major challenge. We had 3 opponents that literally pushed us around all game. Now we ended up winning all 3 of those games, but it was not a good look. It was not a good look. And the reason was, in my opinion, was one of the things was we weren't physically developed at the same rate like we normally would. All right. And no matter what, we're a small rural community. Our kids don't necessarily all have access to the weight room, nor do they have access to good training regimens outside of our school. Kids can't afford trainers. Some kids do, some kids don't, but you know how that is, that thing can be a mess. Not all trainers are built the same, and so we missed a lot from the weight room, and not just from a physical development standpoint, but from a camaraderie standpoint. All right. We weren't able to get the team together, and it hurt. Number 2 is watching film. Okay. We had to be very creative with the way we watched film. I forgot to mention, we were from March 13th until we came back to school, which was towards the end of November. No students were allowed in the building. No staff was allowed in the building. While our weight room's in the building, and where we watch film, we usually go into the classroom to watch film after practice or before practice or whatever. We were unable to do that. So with technology, we were able to do the Zoom film thing, and huddle, etc. But it wasn't the same. You're not going to get the exact same effect that you would live and in person. It's helpful and you need to do it, but if you can get them to watch film live and in person, it's better. Now, about midway through the year, it's starting to get cold out, but we realized like our kids they're not getting it out of the film what we want them to get out of it. We have to watch this with them, just like my college coaches did to us. We got to do that with them. And I'm not talking about hours of film. I'm just talking about 10, 15-minute spots where we're hammering the technique and showing them the things that they're not able to see with their own eyes until we show them. We started doing film outside. So in our stadium, we literally there's a garage door that closes the breezeway walking in the stadium. We did our film work with a projector, a laptop, and whatever batteries in the, that we could find to run this thing, and project it, okay, up on the garage door to watch film. And kids are sitting there in the concrete watching it, okay, masks on, trying to stay warm. We did what we had to do. It wasn't the same. Okay, so it was not as effective as a regular year. Okay, the third thing, the locker room, the culture, and part of the team camaraderie that's built from there. Not being able to be in the building, really tough. I asked every senior when we were doing equipment turn-ins at the end of the year, asked each one individually, of all the things that we weren't able to do, what did you miss the most? And it was overwhelmingly, it was the locker room. Okay, so our seniors got robbed of a very important aspect of our program, which is the family dynamic that doesn't just come from the parents or the head of the family, right? The coaches. It's the big brother to little brother thing. So they missed that drastically. Another one was size reduction. So this was kind of self-imposed. Again, you may not have to face this because of the time of the year, the timing of your season getting going. But we started we were starting in the fall. So we were kind of in the hotbed of this COVID thing. Well, we had to reduce size. Our state made us reduce the size of the program. All right. So I had to reduce by 30% of what I normally carry. So we normally carry 120 kids, freshmen to seniors, 100 to 120. We were down to like 70, 75. I had to make cuts. Now, I did not have to cut many kids that would have contributed at all. But in the same sense, I still had to cut. And that's something that I never want to do. So we had to reduce the size, which also led in line with another district decision. And by no means am I questioning anything that our district did. They did the healthy and the right thing at the time. It sucks, but they had to do what they had to do. We had no sub-varsity, so we didn't have any freshman or JV games. One of the things I did to make sure that we didn't completely crush our future Eagles was I kept 19 freshmen. I kept 19 freshmen with the varsity program, which we normally they'd be playing their own games, and we couldn't get them any games. We called them the future squad. I was very flexible with the way, with the requirements for them to continue to be on the squad, unlike with varsity where, you miss a practice, you better have a great excuse if you're cut. With the freshmen, we talked openly, and if you could be here, be here, all right? Every single kid had high attendance to all the practices, even though they weren't going to play in a game. They had the best year of learning football they've ever had up to this point. And it's not a knock on freshmen or JV coaches at all, but most of the time you're outnumbered. At least in our program, there might be 2 freshman coaches to the whole freshman squad. Nobody helping you. We were able to take those coaches and consolidate with the varsity coaches to make one large unit, okay? One large unit of instructors, and we were able to teach freshmen how to play football. So we used practice we gave them a lot of time in practice, applying the technique, competing hard, even to the point where by the end of the year we had several freshmen starting on varsity special teams, which normally never happens. So 4 and 5 kind of tied together. All right, hopefully you guys don't have to go through that. The last thing is the logistical side. You have an energy vampire. This is for you head coaches. There's an energy vampire standing at your feet right now, knocking on the door. And it's the logistics. The logistics of running a program successfully in a normal year without all these implications, these health implications, is daunting enough. You throw on top of it the medical screening, all the reporting, dealing with kids being sick, having to kind of dot I's, cross T's that you would never have to think about in a normal year. This can get overwhelming, and it can get overwhelming quickly. One of the pillars of accountability for us, our kids weren't even in school when we were starting practice, so they had to get rides to practice. So everything, how can I punish a team for a kid being 15 minutes late to practice when they're not in charge of their ride, and they're not just walking out from the school after school to go to the football field and practice. They're coming from home, and they got to get a ride from somebody. I mean, we had kids that Ubered to practice like 3 days a week because their parents weren't available to give them a ride, and they didn't have a ride. That's insanity. So thankfully, I did not act like an idiot and try to hammer these kids for being late to practice. All right. So flexibility, make sure you're uber flexible, okay, ultra flexible, and make sure that you keep in mind that the kids are going to do everything in their power, okay, to be there and to be successful. The other thing is masks, okay. Delaware and Michigan both had to wear masks in game, in practice, out of game, all of it. Okay, one of the few states that played this fall that had to do that. The only people that made it an issue were the adults. The kids would have dragged themselves douse themselves in gasoline and drag themselves through a field on fire to play football. All right. The only people that bitched and complained about masks were adults. So if you're a head coach or a coordinator or somebody that stands at the upper echelon of your program, it better not be you, because as soon as you crack, it's going to be a problem for the whole program. If you have assistant coaches bitching and complaining about it, you better put them in their place or ask them to come back at a later time. All right, because they're not going to be able to do it. You cannot have that around your program. Our governor said wear a mask. They said wear a mask no matter what. You're wearing a mask under there. We had all this stuff we had to do. Wear the mask. How bad do you want to get this football season in is the question. How bad do you want it for your kids? Don't make a big deal out of something that's not a big deal. The big deal is that the big deal is the fact that our kids got to play a game. One game at a time. Okay? One game at a time. Nothing's guaranteed. You could get shut down. Somebody goes and has a auntie visit from out of town. Everybody gets sick. You might, depending on the way your state handles it, you might get shut down for 2 weeks. Nothing is guaranteed. You're living on the edge the whole season. You got to let it go. You got to let it go. You're not going to have complete control like you normally do or you really strive for. It's just my opinion. Gentlemen, I wish you the best of luck this season. Make sure you stay healthy. Follow all the rules and regulations. Don't make this season a black mark or a blemish on your program. Keep in mind that this whole thing is about the kids. All right, it's not about you. It's not about your win-loss record. Nobody cares. Make sure it's about the kids and getting them play time that they desperately need. The other thing, be creative, think outside the box, find ways to make sure that you continue that building of the culture or the culture that you want in your program. All right, do the best that you can to hold on to that thing, because it will slip quickly and it will leave a mess in the wake. Subscribe, like. If you have any questions, comment. Also on Twitter, Coach Mike Judy. Talk to you later.